Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the City Council work session and special meeting of Tuesday, June 11th. Call the meeting to order. And before we approve the agenda, we are going to amend it and take off resolution 2411, resolution number 10, because we're not quite ready to discuss that. So if you are going to approve the agenda, remember we're amending it.
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so first we'll start off the meeting with public comment. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment, if you would please raise your hand. When you come up, give your name and mailing address and be kind and respectful and keep it under 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment this evening? Jim?
Ken Beach Chamber of Commerce. I sent you all an email this afternoon. I'm hoping you all got it. If not, I have copies and I can read it to you if so. You know that the chamber is busy with Sandcastle Week, and being put on the agenda for tonight's discussion was a surprise to us. And so we were just sent you a letter to ask if we could postpone that. We're actually scheduled to present next month, which seems like a more appropriate time to do that. And being as I looked at your agenda and it's pretty long, I thought you guys might be inclined to do that. So I just wanted to ask you if that would be something you want to consider. And that's what I wanted to say. And here's a copy of the letter if you want to put it in the record. Make sure that it includes for you guys. Anything for me? I'll go sit down then. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Do we need a motion? Or if we wanted to suggest that? Sure. Okay,
I think maybe the appropriate time to do it would
is
be
when
at
it
the
comes
time
up,
Comes up.
so he has to wait here for the whole. Okay, it's a long time away.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to make public comment in the audience? Okay, we're going to go to Zoom, and if you would like to make public comment, I would like you at this time to raise your hand. Okay, so there's no public comment on Zoom. One last chance for the audience, anyone? And one last chance for Zoom, please raise your hand. Okay.
That's good.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll get to move to the meeting. First on the agenda, we have the introduction and the swearing in of our new chief of police. I practice. Jason?
Yes. Council and members of the audience, thank you. I would like to introduce Rob Schultz, most recently coming from Black Butte Police Department. Go ahead and come on up front here. Prior to his 13 years in Black Butte Ranch, he came from Cannon Beach, where he was here for 12 years, finishing as our lieutenant. And he also, prior to that, was a executive chef at Stephanie Inn. So please use him for cooking. He's a member of the Cannon Beach Fire and Rescue, as well as Sisters Camp Sherman Fire District as a firefighter EMT. And he most recently was the vice president of the Sisters Camp Sherman Fire District Board. As you can see, there's many people here that are supporting this, and I think that Rob will be a great fit for the city of Cannon Beach. Welcome aboard. I have him read the oath of office, and then he'll get sworn in by Mayor Nunn.
Okay. As a criminal justice officer in the service as the chief of police for the city of Cannon Beach, my fundamental duty is to serve humankind, safeguard lives and property, to protect all persons against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all people to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule. Develop self-restraint and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life, I will be exemplary in obeying laws of the land and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature, or that is confided to me in my official capacity, will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duties. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudice, or animosities or friendships to influence my decision. Without compromise and with relentlessness, I will uphold the laws affecting the duties of my profession courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize my position as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of the criminal justice system. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession.
You ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So you're going to repeat after me. I, Robert Schultz, do solemnly swear
I, Robert Schultz, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Oregon,
and the state of Oregon,
and I will enforce the laws and ordinances of the city of Cannon Beach,
and I will enforce the laws and ordinances of the city of Cannon Beach,
Oregon,
Oregon,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability.
during my incumbency as the chief of police for the city of Cannon Beach.
During my incumbency as the chief of police for the city of Cannon Beach.
Congratulations.
Now, the beautiful wife Christine will come up and pin his badge on.
No injuries.
No interest.
Ah.
Have met it.
We're going to Brom.
Here's the words. It's.
Maybe easier if you remove your shirt.
It doesn't want to go through. Okay. We're getting there.
It's a new shirt.
Jeez, yes, it is. This is not been
Just put a hole through it.
trying to.
Sure glad I didn't have to do it.
It is.
There's a little bit of blood, it's okay.
Scared. There you go. Congratulations.
Just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm very humbled by all the support I've had from the officers, from Lieutenant Wilbur, Chief Schermorn, the council staff. I've talked to a bunch of you, Mayor Knopp. It's been wonderful. And my biggest supporter, this woman right here who just said, you need to take this opportunity and run with it. And I'm back home, so. Happy to be here. Oh, and Val, it's so good.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'm wondering if we could make a motion about the chamber contract, so Jim doesn't have to stay here throughout our other discussions.
I'm fine with that.
That'd be fun.
I didn't realize it was so far down.
Yeah.
Okay, someone wanna?
I move to table the discussion with the chamber until next month.
Second.
Any further discussion? You guys are gonna miss a lot of fun if you leave.
I think.
Okay. Oh, is that it? Okay, roll call, please.
Counselor Kern,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy.
Yes.
Council President McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Hayes.
Yes,
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay, Jim, we'll see you.
agenda's getting better.
I appreciate it. If you
Oh.
have any questions. or
Better.
Yeah.
Events,
else can we
send them
do?
my way.
Okay,
We'll be ready for that.
good. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Good night. Yes, it'll be too late.
Yeah, see you Saturday. Okay, so first on our agenda for discussion items, we have Recology Western Oregon rate increase. Karen?
Good evening, everyone. I've brought the Recology team here with me today. I've got Dan Blue, Chris Carey, and Katie Hardesty in the middle. As we do every year, present the status of the affairs with the Recology and go over our annual increase if there is one, and there is this year. So I'd like to introduce the team and get you guys off.
Thank you.
Rusty's got your PowerPoint queued up for you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Knopf and members of council and staff. My name is Dan Blue, as Karen said. I'm the Government Relations Manager for Recology Northern Oregon.
I'm Katie Hardesty. I'm the Operations Manager here for the Northern Coast.
I'm Chris Carey. I'm the General Manager for Recology Oregon, which is our transfer stations, our collection companies, and our compost facilities. We'll cover what that looks like sort of across the state for you here later in the slides.
So next slide, please. So again, thank you for having us here this evening. We're just going to cover a few things pretty briefly tonight. Share a little bit about Recology as a company. We're going to share about our operations here in Cannon Beach, talk a little bit about the rate adjustment that you have in your packet, and then answer any questions that might come up in that process. Next slide, please. And so just a little bit about Recology culture. We're the only employee-owned garbage company in the state of Oregon and the largest in the nation. And what that means for Recology is that no one person can own more than 1% of the company. And so we are all employee owners, from our drivers to our senior management. And that really helps us stay focused on making sure that we provide safe, reliable, consistent services and meet the goals and objectives of the communities that we serve, like Cannon Beach. So next slide, please. A little bit about Recology. Generally, we are a West Coast garbage company. We started in California. We provide services in California, Washington, and Oregon. We have over 3,700 employees and serving 127 communities. That includes 26 different collection companies. We operate 24 transfer stations, 14 material recovery facilities, and those are the facilities that when your recycling is collected at the curb, goes to the transfer station where it's consolidated and it's sent to a material recycling facility for sorting and then sent to market. And then we also operate 8 composting facilities up and down the West Coast. Next slide, please. So in Oregon, we do operate 2 transfer stations, one in Astoria and one in McMinnville. We have 3 composting facilities in Oregon, one in Almsville, one in McMinnville, and one in North Plains. And then in the Portland metro area, we have a couple of collection companies, but we also operate Metro's 2 largest transfer stations, Metro Central and Metro South, on contract for Metro. And then, our focus though as a company really is in curbside collections. We're not a landfill company, unlike some of the other bigger companies. We focus on material management, recycling, sustainability. That's really our space, and that's where we excel in terms of curbside collections. Next slide, please. I think I'll turn it over to Katie at this point, talk a little bit more about North Coast operations.
Hi, Katie Hardesty. I've been with the company 13 years. So we have 45 employees that we support here on the North Coast, which is 8 employees at the transfer station, 23 drivers. We have mechanics. We have a satellite company out of Nehalem, where we have 3 drivers that go from Nehalem to Rockaway that provide garbage service. So something really important that we've kind of turned the corner on this year was we were fully staffed. We have living wages. We're able to provide people with 401k and benefits, and we're really striving for a respect-based workplace. So it's been really great to have the stuff come through, and being employee owners is something we really strive to. So we want to have good customer service and be providing people with what they need. Next slide, please. So some of the stuff events we support here in Cannon Beach are the solve cleanups. The Clatsop County Fair is something we'd like to do tablings at, because educating people on proper recycling is something that is kind of a struggle, especially with a high rate of vacation rentals that we have. People come in and they kind of do wishful recycling where everything's going into the recycling bin and a lot of it's just garbage. We support the Chamber and Sandcastle Days, and we like to support and help out Karen and Trevor with the depot here. Next slide. One of my favorite things personally is our Coastal Oregon Artist in Residency program. It's where we have local artists apply for this program, and we pick 2 out of them, and they get to salvage out of the transfer station for 3 months, and they create art, and we put on an art show the second weekend in October, downtown Astoria. We got a booth at the Crab Fest this year, and you can see some of their art. And we didn't just have the 2, we had many of the artists that we've had before come in and put their stuff out so we could provide them another opportunity to try to sell their art. Next slide. Okay.
Back to me. So the artist in residency program, we do offer it in multiple locations, and it does come with a stipend, right?
Yes.
So it's not just them getting to pull garbage out of our transfer station. We do fund their time, and as you saw in the picture, make some pretty incredible art. We're really proud of that. So I get the pleasure of talking about our rate review now. I think you have everything in your packet. You have a cover letter, our annual rate review, and our proposed rate adjustment, as well as a third-party financial review statement. The reason why we're asking for a 3.9% rate increase this year is that some of those inflationary drivers that we saw last year have continued into the year as well. The West Coast region CPI 12 months, March to March, was 3.6%. Another driver is that, as Katie mentioned, employee retention is really important for us. It's way less expensive for us to keep our employees than to spend a year hiring and training and getting them out on the street. We are, continuing to see some other inflationary pressures that are kind of a carryover from COVID times, in particular around parts and equipment. So some supply chain issues are still prevalent, and lag time in getting trucks and equipment, that sort of thing. In the coming year, we are looking at capital investments for our fleet. Most of our trucks are an average of 12 years old, and some of them as old as 15 years, which is really kind of problematic. We really want to keep those trucks in the 7 to 10 range. Those are $500,000 vehicles almost, and they're expensive to maintain, especially when they get older. So those are some of the drivers. Because we are asking for a 3.9% rate increase, that does fall under the 4% cap that's established in the franchise agreement. And I think financial staff here at the city have reviewed all of that. What that 3.9% rate increase would do is get us to close to that 90% target that's established in the franchise. But because it's under 4%, it's kind of not really, we don't have to really do a thorough rate review this time around, but we share that information with you happily. We try to be transparent as a collection company. So what it would look like, next slide, please. So this is, so for the most common customer, for example, which is a 32-gallon weekly garbage service cart placed at the curb, recycling, and again, this is your most common customer, they would see $1.19 per month rate increase, and that works out to 27 cents a week. That's what that 3.9% rate increase would translate to, not 39. So that's really it about the rates. If we have one more slide, I think that Katie was going to talk about.
So I just wanted to, I don't know how familiar you are with our side yard service that we provide here in Cannon Beach, and that's mostly for your second homes and your vacation rentals and everything. So I just wanted to update you with getting what we're working on. We've greatly worked with Karen and Trevor on it. It's been fantastic working with Karen. So we have we had some problem set outs for that weren't, I'm so sorry.
No worries. You got it.
They were out of compliance with our set out requirements. So we have some requirements that's like, it's supposed to be no more than 40 feet and visible from the street, but Cannon Beach has some interesting house locations, especially down on Hemlock, where it's just a sharp. So we worked with Karen, which was great, and the customers. We did a site visit to get them into compliance where we could offer them the service and still have it to where it works for them. So we have some more that we're working on. As you can see on there, it says no entering to garages, houses. That's all in our franchise agreement with you. So we're working with customers to get them into compliance, and it's not a huge issue. It's just sometimes bringing it back from around behind the house or bringing it out from behind the gates.
The reason we bring that up tonight is that we made a concerted effort in the last year to do that. And that might drive some phone calls about, they've always done it this way. Why are they changing it? To our own fault, we did allow a lot of this type of service to happen, and we're trying to clean it up. Part of it is to keep the rates in a space that's moderate increases versus, a large increase because of the type of service that's required to go get that. Also, we're just trying to retrain drivers, the amount of steps that everybody has their counters now. It's incredible what that does to a day in terms of, and the longevity of that driver. So we're trying to maintain that and really just bring it back to where it should be. But we were methodical about it. We came to Karen and the team and said, here's what we'd like to do. We tested 5 or so out, and it worked out pretty well. And so the drivers are now given the opportunity to tag the cart and place it where it should be. And then if it has numbers on it, if you need to call us, then we'll come out and do a consultation. This is not in any way to punish anybody who physically cannot bring the can to the curb or bring it out. We're still able to do those types of services that don't require an extra fee or anything like that. So it's not a wholesale everybody. It's let's be reasonable. And we do a site survey, and it's not like we're pushing hard. We'll make a decision that we think is fair. So far, we haven't heard from any of you about it, so that's a good thing. I think it's working.
Yeah, and if there was any case that where it was escalating, we've already worked out an agreement where we would let Karen know, and we'd work together on that. If there was a customer who was just like, I'm not going to be compliant.
You guys have been great.
Okay. Yeah. So really, that's it. And we're happy to answer any questions about Recology, about the proposed rate adjustment, about recycling services, anything like that. We're here for that.
Do you think you'll ever have a composting station in the Astoria, Seaside, Cannon Beach area?
So good question. I mean, that's kind of my role, is to be strategic about when we can do that. We have 2 compost facilities in Almsville and in North Plains, and they support the metro area, and that's not enough. But there's a lot of density and there's established programs. I think for us, if all the cities that we serve want it in dense areas, it could work in a way that's affordable. It'll work any way you want, but it just has to do with how much expense you want to pay to do it. There's no site that's been permitted that's close. So that's one of the struggles. And then even if we were to establish a program, we just expanded both our facilities to take in about 80,000 tons a year, and they're already full. And there's demand because people are standing up programs. So if that's what folks want, we can start to look at it, but we would have to permit something down here, which is really tough with DEQ, because as soon as you put food in compost, it becomes a solid waste product. And there's a lot of restrictions versus just a normal yard debris composting program. So short answer long, sorry. There's a lot of things that need to happen, but we do get questions from almost every city. So it's something that we'll start to take a look at in terms of if you want us to build it, we'll need some help getting other cities on board, right? And then look at what that does in terms of how much we think we can collect and then ship and make it affordable.
Don't some of them actually resell it after it's composted as fertilizer?
Yeah, we certainly sell it as a compost. And we'll make blends with dirt for planting. So we actually sell the Scots for bagging out of both of our, so you might even be buying some of the product in the grocery stores. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Hey,
Can you touch on, sorry,
I would extend an invitation if you guys are around North Plains, going into Portland or whatever, down 26. Let us know. We're doing tours all the time and it's a great opportunity to see sort of a closed loop process. It's a state-of-the-art facility. We would love to have you do that. Another invitation is if you ever want to get on one of the local trucks and experience the service. It's a blast. We've had a council member from Gerhart and 2 from Manzanita that are jumping on. So just call Dan. Karen has his number and we've made arrangements with Katie's team to get folks out there. It's really show up when you want. We take you out in a truck and put you on the truck for an hour.
Or less.
Yeah, whatever you can handle. And it's, it can be eye-opening experience for you.
And you don't have to actually pick up any.
Unless you
trash.
want to.
Just,
want to.
just.
no, wait a minute, we have the arrangement when they come to work with public work, they gotta actually participate, contribute, you know.
Sign a waiver.
Now, Dan, would you please touch on the DEQ effort?
Yes.
We're all involved in with the plastics?
Yes, so a couple of years ago, Oregon DEQ passed the Plastic Pollution and Recycling Modernization Act. It's referred to as the RMA now, Recycling Modernization Act. It will take effect July 1st of 2025. Between today and July 1st next year, a whole lot of work has to go into place to identify what kinds of things local communities need to enhance your recycling programs. It's basically an extended producer responsibility program that sends a bill to packaging manufacturers. And so packaging manufacturers, think Amazon, Procter & Gamble, Apple, multinational global corporations are going to be funding improvements to Oregon's entire recycling system. That's one thing that it's going to do. Second, it's going to create a uniform statewide list for recyclables, meaning anywhere you live in the state of Oregon, what goes in the blue roll cart will be exactly the same. It's creating a second list called the Producer Responsibility Organization. There's a lot of acronyms. PRO list, which is an additional set of harder to recycle materials like styrofoam, like those rigid pieces of plastic that hold your 6 packs of pop or beer together. Shredded paper, polypropylene, polyethylene lids that you currently can't put in your recycling cart. So the PRO is a nonprofit organization representing all those packaging manufacturers. They are required to set up depots or other systems for collecting those harder to recycle materials. So uniform list statewide for the blue cart, new collection services and drop-off opportunities for these other materials. And then a third important component of it is that they are going to require verified markets for every material that's collected in the state, which is something that has been not really in effect previously over the last 30 years. So no more sending a bunch of junk to China. Things that we collect at the curb have to go to a market that is verifiable. So those are the big things for the city of Cannon Beach. We will be helping Karen fill out a 100-question questionnaire by June 28th. And I'm doing that for 21 cities. So that's going to be super fun. And we will discuss with Karen, opportunities for the city here to get some investments in the recycling program. The program also does come with some education dollars focused on contamination reduction. I think it's $3 per capita for each jurisdiction. So per year. So that would be a little extra funding. Oh, and I forgot one important piece. They also are going to invest in the material recycling processing facilities so that what we pay to have those materials processed, which can fluctuate, like it's been as high as like $90, more recently 30, never 90, 60, higher. Okay. Right now, I think we're in the $30 a ton range. The idea of the whole program is that recycling processing costs will be zero. So there won't be that fluctuation, which makes rate setting a lot easier for us in our projections because it's the one variable. Well, fuel sometimes is highly variable as well. It's the one variable that really fluctuates up and down a lot. And so that's good news for everything. So the RMA is complicated. It's going to be a lot of work, but it'll bring good benefits to everybody in the state of Oregon. And it's all paid for by those massive global corporations. And there won't be, so when you buy something at the store, you won't pay an extra fee for that cardboard box. They're just essentially seeing this as a regulatory compliance payment to the state of Oregon. So it's not going to impact pricing at the consumer
Well,
level.
there won't be like a deposit for any of
Right.
that stuff, but we know they're gonna pass through the expense, right, in terms.
They really can't do it at the state level though, because like Amazon's not going to be able to refine how pricing affects. So anyway, yeah, we can provide more information about
Yeah,
that.
it's still early and I think, they have, those are the ambitions. And so I think we'd temper that a little bit just to say that that's the intention and we love it because it will stabilize. Recycling markets have played havoc on rates. And so this endeavor one is to clean up what can be recycled, what cannot, and have it a standard. And then essentially that helps stabilize these rates, these collection rates. So we're on board. We're ready.
Are your recyclables still going across overseas though? You know?
You want to take that one or you got?
Yeah, most of them are actually staying domestic now, but I think there's still some of the plastics do go internationally. And that won't be, that will still be allowed as long as those are verifiable markets. Some of the material, but I think most of our materials, especially our paper fibers and all of that, are staying local because they're going to mills up and down the West Coast. Some of the plastics stay very local in that they stay in like the Portland area. There's a remanufacturer there. So it varies on what the material is. Metals, I think, are pretty much staying metals, right? So it varies by material. Under RMA, things could still be shipped to international markets, but they still have to be verifiable.
Yeah, when China shut everything down, that forced the domestic markets to do a better job. Now the foreign markets, if they pay more, these brokers could ship it if they need to, but it's going to be under a different level of scrutiny. Yeah. I hope that answered your question. Yeah.
Well, I would like to commend you for your packet information. It was very thorough, and I'd like to say thank you for the respectful drivers that you have. They are wonderful. And thank you for working so well with the city staff.
I'd just like to mention one last thing. There's been a lot of questions come up about it so that everybody knows. Recology did experience a system issue last year. It delayed them in getting some of their annual reports to you and our team. But I wanted to just commend them publicly on how they handled that because they were blind to some of the details of the services for our residents. But they didn't seem to skip a beat. We didn't get a lot of phone calls saying, hey, my trash isn't getting picked up, or that I have curbside, but they're not doing curbside. None of that was happening. The few questions we had come up, Katie and the team just hit it out of the ballpark. So I just want to say, and none of our customer information was compromised in that system issue. So I just want to let the council know that because the community has asked those questions and we've reiterated the same message to everybody. So hats off to all of you guys for a great job once again.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
And flick to the next slide, please. It does have our contact information and my phone number. So need anything, thank you. And if you want to go on those ride-alongs, reach out to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I dare you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Cannon Beach Elementary School Project 50% budget review. Come on up. evening.
Good evening.
Bruce, did you want us?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I'll turn it quickly over to Dustin. The project is nearing the point that we are halfway through bid drawings for the project. And there's kind of a transition where now the CMGC is more involved. They've been working with their vendors or suppliers to pull together prices and that's what we're working on right now. So things are getting more and more refined. And so we're at the halfway point on that, and I'd like to turn it over, I guess to Dustin, but at some point it's probably gonna be Ben and David.
Thank you so much, and I apologize, I'm getting logged into the Zoom meeting right now so that I can share my screen with you.
Are you feeling better?
I'm feeling much better, I'm just losing my voice tonight, so.
Doesn't matter, he has twin boys. And they're all sick.
Right. Great. Excuse me. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Disconnect your audio too.
Got it. Got it. All right, well, good evening, council, Madam Mayor. I know you've got a busy evening tonight. We released our 50% drawing packet. We added, I think last time we had a page turn, we kind of went through every single sheet and it took us maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours to do that. We've added about 50% more drawings to that. So I think what we're going to do tonight, we want to focus on the budget discussion. I want to go over this drawing set real quick with you. Let you know, this was released as a 50% drawing set. For me, what I always like to do is try to be well ahead of the game when we issue. So looking back at this set, it's probably more like an 80% set. And what you can expect to see moving forward, we're still tracking for July 1st, submitting for building permit. So we would release our next set of drawings a couple days before that. And as I guess I'll kind of point out the holes and what's going to be different in the next set. And the other thing I'll focus on is just the added new sheets and what those are. Okay. Not intended to bore you at all. I won't be offended if I see anybody yawning, and I'll get through this really quick and then we'll get into that budget discussion. Okay. Let's see here. Maximize everything here. All right, our cover sheet. This is a good reference if you want to see what was released before in the DD issue versus what is released with this set. Gives you a good idea if you're reviewing this independently, which drawings to kind of focus on. This next sheet, fire and life safety sheet, further developed what our occupant load looks like for the project. In our last meeting, we discussed there's a very real limit to how many occupants can be inside this building at any one time to maintain our risk category 2. That's 300 occupants. As we calc out the bill, there's different ways to calculate that occupant load, but it actually calcs out without having to use any code exceptions or anything to be just below 300. Move into civil, added a bunch of no new plans, but a lot of detail sheets on sewer and underground piping, detailing, back trenching, that kind of thing. Usually when civil and landscape get to the design development stage, that would have been the last release, 90% complete. So I won't spend time going through these. After civil is landscape. Landscape has a few new sheets in here. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at I'm showing you the wrong side. Go back here to our fire and life safety sheet. Looks a lot like it did in the DD set. Sorry about that. The next sheet after that is our assembly sheet. We're working with an envelope consultant to develop roof assemblies, wall assemblies that are going to last a long time out here on the coast. This is the detail of what each of those systems is called out to be. Material by material or system by system, and they're referred back to in the floor plan sheet. Again, civil, they're doing their specifications in sheet form, so they have a couple of sheet specs out front. And again, quite a few extra civil detail sheets. After civil is the landscape. We can get there. Landscape added, new plantings, they've got their planting plan at 100%. And some additional details. They do have a couple sheets in here that are specific to landscape irrigation. We have a meeting with the tribe on Friday, and this will be a point of discussion in terms of how much irrigation do we think is actually needed. It's temporary irrigation in most cases. And we have a site that's very sensitive, being dug up in any way, shape, or form. So I imagine the amount of irrigation that is shown on these sheets is probably going to diminish after that meeting on Friday. Then a little bit of detail around the southeast entry plaza. The wall, the welcome figure, the podium she stands on will all continue to be developed for the permit set here on July 1st. And we're into the architectural set. We have 6 or 7 sheets in the beginning here that we've added that are all for architectural demolition. So we go through each of the floor plans, the roof plan, and the elevations to show exactly where demolition is occurring. This helps Ben and David price the project, but it also helps the demo contractor without having to go through and interpret all the plan set to know what's being demolished. It makes it very clear and easy. What's new in architectural? We have some areas in the north part of the gym that weren't on our previous plan. These areas that are hatched with the little triangle hatch pattern here, those areas are lower than surrounding slab. If you go into the gym building and underneath that mezzanine, you'll see that the slab has kind of multiple levels to it. This is indicating where we need to fill in that slab to make it level. It's just a topping slab at these locations. It's not a demolition of existing slab and then adding all new slab. It's just a topical treatment. From a plan standpoint, the other new thing here, according to the survey, we have about a 3-inch difference in slab finished floor elevation from the gym to the classroom built. So between those two structures, we accommodate that with some form of a transition. We can keep that transition in less than 1 inch vertical and 20 inches horizontal. It's not going to ramp. Perceptible to be sure to walk on, but it is not steep. It does not require handrails. This plan shows that ramp. It's actually drawn a little bit incorrectly here. It's supposed to be in between both of the toilet room doors. It's about 60 inches of run for 3 inches of rise. David has been out with his crew recently to the site and they did some laser scanning out there and determined that that 3-inch difference that was on the survey is probably more like 6 or 7 inches. So we have about 10 feet of ramp instead of 5 feet that we need to accommodate. Our plan of attack for that you'll see in the next set is going to be to leave the bottom of the ramp where we are showing it right here in front of the men's toilet room, just before heading into that first classroom space. We would take that top of the ramp and move it out here. And then this door that leads into the women's toilet room would actually be on this east facing wall here. That would be the solution. One thing that would alter how we deal with that ramp and keep it from being as simple as what I just showed you is if we do end up doing gender neutral bathrooms at this location, then we need to look at a little bit different solution there. So the sooner we have an answer on that particular piece, the better. Gender neutral bathrooms in the gym, if that's the direction we want to go, that's a very easy thing to adjust on the fly. This one's just a little bit more cumbersome. I think that's it. That's new on the floor plans. And please feel free to stop me at any time if you want me to dive into further detail or if you have questions. Chrissy, anything on the finished plans new from?
I don't think so. We can talk about the lobby flooring at the end.
So we're going to go from this discussion on what's new in this drawing set from the previous set, transition over to budget and where we're at, where we're trending, and then Chrissy's going to wrap it up with some interior finish discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Elevations, the only real thing to point out in the elevations that have changed, we talked about some value engineering options or alternates in order to help track the budget at where it was originally tracked. And one of those things was reducing the amount of precast concrete that we had around the perimeter of the building. That precast concrete was inspired by a way to effectively drain the gym roof. And then it was carried around the remainder of the building as a unifying aesthetic instead of just having it at the one location. We have omitted that and saved quite a bit of money there to apply towards other areas that we were trending over budget. And that really is the big thing that's changed, and it's not that significant. It was just a 2-foot high concrete wall that kind of went around the perimeter. How we're dealing with that at the gym now, so instead of draining behind that little concrete wainscot wall, we're letting the gym drain naturally like it does today, except that where that standing seam metal comes down to grade, we'll have about a 3-foot wide rock bed. Be large enough rock to keep people from wanting to walk on it. And it'll be extremely permeable. Be a perf pipe or a perforated pipe located at the bottom of that trench, and that carries it out to the estuary. The other big difference in the elevations, and it's really kind of subtle, we're now working with a window manufacturer as a basis of design. That's Pella. Each brand, each manufacturer has their standard window sizes. So now we take our basis of design, standard window sizes, and fit them to the design. So where we may have had, we can take this example here at the south end of the gym, we're showing 12 windows to make up one big window system. I think before that was probably 8 windows. And it's not that Pella can't manufacture larger windows, it's just it's more budget friendly if you stick to their sort of off the shelf sizes that they're already tooled for to make. All right, that was it on the elevations. Sections are really just to show high level geometry. Nothing significant change there. Get into wall sections, additional detail, additional collaboration between architectural, structural, and building systems have been worked out. And then new wall sections that you haven't seen yet. And these might be fun to kind of dive into at your leisure, just how we plan on forming out. The mural wall, for example, is what these first two are showing, both on the east side and the south side. That's another part of the project that will continue to progress as we move into this last phase of developing the construction drawings. We get into, these are all the different window systems, the off-the-shelf Pella windows. Each one has its own kind of drawing showing where it is relative to finished floor elevation. Again, makes it really easy for someone to price. And then we get into the real finite details where the envelope consultant is really involved in helping us determine how we're wrapping our different control layers. We'll talk about interiors at the end of this meeting. We have a sheet dedicated to just the stair at the new mezzanine that gets up to the mechanical platform. And then getting into roofing and siding details, which will be another point of probably end up with 2 or 3 times that many details. This next set of drawings, that's where most of our time will be spent between now and then. Structural drawings. Really, most of the development in structural has been in canopy design as well as in seismic retrofit, specifically at the gym. Don't spend too much time here unless anyone has any questions or wants me to stop. A lot of it's new sheets on foundation details and framing details. We get into mechanical, electrical, plumbing, they're all further developed quite a bit more than they were in the design development stage. But the design hasn't changed. They're just more developed. Thing I'll point out on mechanical, very much in the gym, it's as had been designed, except we were showing that that was likely going to be 2 overhead spiral duct systems. Now it's just a single overhead duct supply, and we've got a return air vent at the mezzanine level. So that is not carried back all the way from the far end of the gym via duct. It's just brought in right there, basically at the source. On the classroom side, this storage closet adjacent to, in this set, it's called classroom number 3. We have gone through and renamed some of these spaces to be more reflective of what they are going to be as opposed to what they were. So classrooms 107 and 108 are now workrooms. Classroom 109 is exhibit. The heritage lobby is also an exhibit space in the next set. But what I wanted to point out here is that this storage closet just adjacent to classroom 3, we are having to use about 50 to 60% of that space for the mechanical unit that's going to serve those rooms, as well as the electrical that supports those rooms as well. So we're going to have some house panels in there, some networking equipment, and then our mechanical unit. And I think that's about the level of detail we want to get into today, unless there's anything specific you want me to speak to that we haven't already talked about.
Anybody?
Okay. Great, then we can head straight into where we're trending on our budget estimate. Again, the budget you're about to see is reflective of the information that is on these drawings, which are quite a bit further along than the previous set, the DD set. And I think with that, I can, as my computer wakes up here, it'll switch over to that slide and Dave and Ben can take over the
Sure.
part of the
Yeah.
presentation.
So we're gonna divide up how we're gonna talk about the budget. So Dave and I will talk about what we call construction hard costs, which is the lion's share of the project for this. And then there's soft costs below that on the slide that should be coming up here shortly. Overall, I think what we've been able to do is accommodate quite a bit of the development that Dustin's described in the project. So overall, we're seeing, hopefully it's gonna come soon.
I'm gonna have to reconnect here. Give me a second. I need some time, but
Okay, well, so overall, I mean, it seems like it's trending relatively positively. So it's within about 1.5% of where the previous budget estimate was. We've been able to accommodate in the previously reviewed budget a good portion of the development that Dustin's been talking about in the documents. So we're at what's called 50% construction documents now. We'll be pricing this one final time for the project. The thing I want to point out in the slide, you'll see there were a few items that we talked about with council at the last meeting that were things that I think were felt that they should be in the project still. So one is an operable partition between the classrooms. So that's part of what the additional cost items are there. And then the other one, there was some tile finishes in some of the restrooms that I think were felt strongly that those should be part of the project. I'm going off memory here, waiting for those slides to come up, but overall, those items were somewhere around the 100, those, and then there was some other structural development in the gym as well, which I believe was around a $57,000 item. So overall, I believe that's around 150,000. I saw the slide flash up there. So hopefully we'll see that soon. So really generally, it's pretty positively trending towards where the budget should be as far as the construction hard cost side of that. We want to make sure that there are things that our team is listening to that as they're determined important by council, by the community, those are put back into the project, which is why you'll see some of those items. There it is right there.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Okay. All right. I tried to buy you some time, Dustin.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So this slide is presented similarly to the last version that we looked at. So the section on the left that says DD estimate 22724 was the last version that we looked at with the team. On the right side of the summary is the 50% CD cost estimate, which was produced earlier this month. And so
Dated a little bit from what we had in our pack.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. So there were a few adjustments on here. There's a few items that are being tracked as being funded from other sources. And so the canopy extension to the food bank, which is the section in the last two lines in the dark blue section on the top, was being funded from a different source. And there's also a sewer extension that would be funded from a different source, previously part of that project. I think it'll make more sense for the city to do that work concurrently with the CBE nation, just because there will be equipment on site to do that. So you'll see that that's what's been added there below the line as well. So overall, I mean, I think this, thank you for pointing that out. This is slightly different than what was included in the packet. We needed to make sure that that was updated there. But yeah, overall, I'd say, based on where our 50% CD is tracking pretty well compared to target budget as reviewed last time. Any questions on the construction hard cost piece? It is the largest number there. We tried to break it down into some smaller pieces, but keep it more at kind of the executive level of development. Overall, seems very positive.
Any questions?
Ben, did you want to go over your other slide at this time?
I pretty much think I just kind of walked through that in the description. You can put it up there. Yeah. So this is what I was trying to describe verbally. This is just showing of the $148,000 increase from last time. The top two items were the operable partition as well as the wall tile, which we heard were important pieces of the project. So those were added back into the budget. And then the last item there has been quite a bit of exploratory work that's been done on the gym to understand some of the structural enhancements that are going to be needed for that. So we're able to cover a large portion of that with some of the contingencies we've been carrying in the construction budget. Some of that spilled out though as added cost, but overall for a project that's at 50% CD to be within 1.5% between budgets is pretty good in this market. So. I'm going to pass it back over to Dustin if there's no questions on that, and we'll get through some of the soft cost discussion and then maybe have some further discussion.
All right, thanks, Ben. So the soft costs in the last couple budget estimates have remained status quo. So you might have been surprised to see that there were some increases in this budget round, in this budget estimate. So the first one, see it over here on the right with the low high variance of 17,250. This is a new design item, a new service. It's for commissioning of mechanical systems. This is driven by our current code cycle, which is new since we've started this project. That does require a third-party commissioning of projects that are of a certain size that use a certain amount of energy as a threshold. I believe the other two Cannon Beach projects that we're involved in, the police station and City Hall, don't trigger the threshold for requiring that particular professional. Cannon Beach Elementary is well beyond triggering that threshold. We reached out, we got a couple of numbers. This number we have here was the lower of the two, and it would be provided by RWDI, who is part of the design team. So it'd be somebody at RWDI who is not intimately familiar with the project who would be doing the third-party commissioning. And that's a code requirement that it is somebody who directly involved with the design of the project. The next one down, this is the higher of the soft costs that were updated for this budget estimate. There's a couple of things going on here. If you look at the DD level estimate, you'll see permitting fees estimated. Again, we've been carrying this for about 1.5 years in the budget. We had an estimate of permitting fees through City of Cannon Beach, a range of 118,000 to 145,000. We did get an updated fee based on current rates, and that came in at 164,098. And so that difference was fairly significant, about 19,000 higher than the high end. Quite a bit more than the low end, and that's why you'll see the low to high variance. The variance at the low end was significantly more than the variance at the high end, and it's because of that low to high range. It's kind of counterintuitive. And then the last thing, this was a mistake on my part, and I apologize. The builder's risk insurance, I did not have plugged in to the soft costs. And in reviewing the other two Cannon Beach projects and making sure that we're presenting everything similarly, we did notice that builder's risk insurance was included in the soft cost portion of the budget for those projects. We pulled it out as a separate line item here under soft costs instead of carrying it in, for example, owner's contingency. So those three items result again in a low to high variance of 101,000 to 74,000. So that brings up the total hard cost plus soft costs. Again, we're looking at a split of low and high. We'll just look at the high, 11,993,521. Previously, it was 11,752,852. And that's a net of 240,669. Owner's contingency, of course, would go up as well because it's a 5% of hard and soft costs added together. So that went up about $12,000 and change for a grand total for a net increase of about 252,703.
Justin, how much are we carrying total in contingencies?
Well, the city is carrying the 5% owner's contingency, and that's that just under 600,000. Bremick is carrying estimating contingency as well as construction contingency.
We're carrying an additional, included in the numbers you see, 2.5% for estimating and design completion contingency to get the project from today to the 100% CD. So the idea being there that that's currently carried at the bottom of the construction estimate, and then that filters up to offset some of the continued development of the documents. So in that round numbers is approximately 209,000, call it.
And there's one more contingency in there.
Correct. We are also, thank you, Bruce, for reminding, we are also carrying in the number you're looking at a inflation contingency. Bear with me a second. I'm trying to find that one on here. Of an additional 195,000 in addition. And so what that is to offset increased costs between today and when the project is bought out in October of this year. So 195 and 208, in addition to what Dustin's describing as owner contingency to be carried forward into the project. And once we reach the final pricing of the project, both of those contingencies will be zeroed out and that are on the construction side. And then the idea being that those are going to offset any further development in the cost of work items above in the estimate. Thanks for the reminder, Bruce.
Sure.
That puts the total in contingency right at $1 million and change.
And what are we running per month for any delays that we might have? In terms of costs?
And that would be from my lens, that does not affect soft costs unless it were to be delayed to a point where, you know, building permit fees and other trade permit fees go up. But that generally happens around July of each year.
We've been projecting within the budget 0.5% per month between whatever day the estimate is produced until the project starts. If it extends beyond that, at that 0.5% a month, it's roughly $49,000 a month. So.
Other questions?
Kick us off in your
I do.
finishes.
Now the fun stuff.
I'll come close.
Thank you.
So last time, I had reviewed with you guys, tile options and paint options for the toilet rooms. We landed on this tile for the toilet rooms, and then we were still up in the air about paint colors. And we liked blue, so I brought some blues. Bandeck, just in case none of these spark joy. So I have a few different kinds here. Can't hold everything. Okay. So I have a few different here. From the powder blue that I believe you guys were talking about, this one I think.
This is for the bathroom?
For the rooms, yes.
Okay.
So tile will be up to a wainscot at up to 4 feet. And then this would be above that. And then there's unisex bathrooms access from the outside, and those will be epoxy paint the entire. So that one doesn't need by code any tile. So this one I think fits the powder blue that you guys were talking about, but if this is too blue, if it's still too gray, we can talk about it. These were some other ones that are a little bit more vibrant compared to the other two, or to this one. Both of them, I mean, if I had it over here, you'd still say it's blue. If you had it over here, you'd say, oh, one's a little bit more teal, which that's just color theory and what's next to it.
What is the one, what is this one?
That one, what I would just say is a little bit more brighter, has a little bit more chroma is the word. So this one just maybe has like a little bit more white to it, while this one has more of the color.
That's cooler.
Cooler.
And this is warmer.
Okay. You prefer one of the two?
Well, I like the warmer one.
The warmer one? So she was saying this one is the warmer one and this one is the cooler one.
Yeah, I kind of like the warmer one.
The warmer one. And to show that against just the white.
Yeah, it's nice.
Gives it a nice pop.
What do you think, Brandon?
I don't have an opinion.
You can say you like it. Are we all agreeing that we like this one?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Warm.
Always like warm, especially in this.
So the other item that we just wanted to hit on was the lobby flooring. And last time we had talked, I brought those samples. If you want me to bring them back out, I can. We said it was still not enough contrast between the sandblasting and the aggregate that's there. When you want that contrast of what we originally had shown you, just project wise, and we've evolved it since then for better maintenance, more cost affordable for the whole lobby to be concrete rather than the tile. So again, we're still proposing the pigmented colored concrete rather than stained, because stained, you're just gonna have a higher maintenance cost throughout the year, because you'll eventually be able to see the walking paths within the lobby. But getting to my point, the contrast you want to see in between the two is that maybe we're going in the wrong direction. Are we going too dark and you want to see it lighter, and then that way the aggregate comes through and gives a little bit more of contrast? Or is it just, maybe we need a brushed pattern on the polished side and a little bit more rougher on the sandblasted side? Any thoughts there?
Well, without an example,
Yeah,
to
and-
get us, to see all, I just, I just remember the one thing, I know we can't be like we originally had it, and obviously, I guess that's a cost thing. But and a maintenance thing, but I certainly would like to see color contrast,
That's why I brought this guy. So these are the additives that go within the concrete. And then they also have the aggregate in it. When you sandblast it, it gives it that definition between the two. The last ones that you saw are conveniently, I believe, right next to each other. So it's this Kailua and Adobe. So these two right next to each other are the ones that you saw last time Maya was here. And we've seen some other photos that going lighter brings out the aggregate more. And so you actually have a light side and a dark side a little bit more. I know there was some hesitation on it looking gray and cold. So we were thinking maybe this pebble or the dune might be a good alternative. So going back to the lighter side so that when you do have that aggregate come through on the sandblasting side, you will actually be able to see the different and the darker aggregate that goes into it. I want to add anything?
So that's lighter.
Yeah,
So
I don't
compared
see
to
very much
Oh, yeah.
contrast. I don't see a lot of contrast, so I'm trying to imagine, are you pointing to the Adobe?
yeah, so these two are the samples that we had last time and I can bring them out. But these compared to those two, there's a difference. And if our aggregate was more this Kailua side,
Mm-hmm.
and then this would be the polished side, there's a little bit more contrast there. So if the aggregate was this darker color and then the sandblasted side.
The aggregate is the ocean.
It can be.
No, I'm just asking.
I think
how do
right now we
you-
had it, the sandblasted side was the land.
Sandblast was the land and okay. And the smooth, the polished was the ocean.
The ocean, yep.
Okay.
So that would be the lighter if we went with this lighter color.
That lighter color with,
A darker aggregate
yeah.
might give that.
Boy, I mean, I really need to see a sample.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of contrast there, so I can't,
Because it's not sandblasted.
Yeah, so
Can't-
don't-
Have no idea what it.
But you're
no
not
idea what
talking
it
about
looks
the
like.
two samples on the left versus the two samples on the right.
No.
You're talking about the darker sample
simple with the,
with one of the lighter
The
samples.
darker sample represented all the aggregate that's in the concrete that's being shown by the sandblasting. That's gonna be what stands out on that side. And then when you have this lighter polished side, that's the normal, but you're not sandblasting it, so it doesn't show all the darker particulates in it. It'll look lighter next to it.
Maya's got her hand up too.
guess I don't believe it.
Maya, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, sorry, I'm apparently having a little bit of technical difficulties. Can you hear me?
Yes, and
Okay, so my video is not working, but I will just talk. I think the one thing I wanted to mention is that this is still a work in progress. And we are trying to get samples. It just takes a bit of time. We thought we were going to have a few ready for today's meeting, but they didn't quite get complete. This is definitely going to be one of the items that we discuss heavily with the tribe on Friday. And hopefully we'll have a little bit more samples and color choices to discuss. I think the main thing that we're trying to make sure that we're getting from you all today is that you understand the reasoning behind it as far as the budget trends, the maintenance, the wear and tear, all of that. This is the best choice at this point in order to still have that concept of showing the map and the land. that's, I think, what I wanted to say. I just want to make sure that you all are on board with this direction that we're headed and understanding that we're going to be tweaking it and finding some colors and finding some different ways to propose it. But making sure that you're comfortable with that approach at this point.
I think that we don't have a choice, really. I mean, we can't, because it doesn't sound to me like the stain is a viable option anymore. So it just finding the right colors on that chart to make it work. Are you inserting those little blue tiles in still?
The flooring,
Yeah.
I believe so because they were gonna connect back to the informational.
So they are going to be in the flooring. So that has something to do, and they're that cobalt blue, right? So they need to be something, whatever gets picked here needs to go with them. And you never considered, is it just too, kitschy or, too much to have to go towards an earth color and a color that suggests the ocean? Is that too much?
I think it might, because when you come to the space, it's all very representational, but
the colors on there are, I mean, they're pretty representational.
Representational in the way of I can't think of the word, maybe Maya knows it, but so when you walk into the space, you want to be able to understand it without it just like being right in your face, and you get to make that journey. You see something on the floor and you go, oh, that spot, what does it mean? Then you go to the wall and it tells the story of Cannon Beach and the tribe, rather than it being almost like a Disneyland walkabout,
Right, no, I know, but I'm just saying, I don't think any of the colors on that chart are Disneyland-ish.
So I'll jump in a little bit on that. I think the other complication with trying to do like the blue on the seaside and the, darker, whatever brown tone for the land side, that's two different pigments. And this is all one slab. So we have to pick a pigment, and then it's just the sandblasting that will change the look from one side to the other.
Oh, I get it. Okay. All right. It's still just one pigment. I thought when you were going back and forth across the page, showing us the two, that was two different pigments.
I was using this blue as the aggregate color that you would see once it was sandblasted, because they're darker minerals within the concrete that comes through after it being sandblasted. So that was just a representation of what the sandblasting will do and what.
Oh, I see. Well,
but if this pebble was the main color we were using in the concrete to go through the entire slab.
okay, it's still gray. I mean, it's gray, gray, gray.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think that we're trying to make sure we have the warmth in there, which is why we defaulted to go of a darker brown stain. I think this last sample that we were trying to get went more of like a golden tone. So I'm not quite sure how effective that is because we haven't seen that sample just yet. But to speak to the aggregate too, I believe, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understood your conversation to be with that sub was that there could be a difference in aggregate content from one side to the other, so that when we do sandblast it, it might help with that effect. I don't know if I'm speaking to that completely accurately.
Yeah, I think there are some options on the type of aggregate you add to the concrete, but it's very based on like what's available locally, what kind of rock they have. So it could be more like a whiter rock, not necessarily like a colored, like a blue or green color, but varying shades of gray. Whatever the local yard has for aggregate.
Yeah, and again, I'm really sorry that we don't have the samples. The problem with this particular thing is that you have to pour the concrete, it has to cure, there's multiple steps that have to happen. So it just takes a little bit more time than we would like, but we are working on that still.
Okay, because it's such a, I mean, it makes the lobby basically for me. What the floor is like.
But you think you'll have the samples by Friday's meeting? Troy?
Well, that's on me to get together. I'm hoping to have something,
Okay.
at least the color of the concrete, whether or not it's sandblasted or polished, but at least the coloring.
And that one
One
was
side will represent.
Spanish gold that we had him. So getting more into that brown, more color, so the Spanish gold. Yeah, so we'll keep working away on those, getting as much contrast as we can, being really great. And we do know that this space is gonna be, I mean, beautiful in the end. We just have to get to that point with all the material options that we have.
I'm somewhat skeptical. I want to see the samples. I'm kind of skeptical about samples right now.
So one other thing, sorry to say about the samples, and this is a common issue when we're talking sample sizes versus install photos. I mean, it happens with carpet, it happens with other kinds of flooring. When you're looking at a small sample, it loses the effect so quickly. And that is, you know, the bane to our existence as designers, is that you see the sample in front of you and you're like, well, that's not super hot. But if you can see the install photos and see it in a full room, you're like, oh, okay, that's what it's going to look like. So we really probably need to re-bring up those photos of those different sandblasting designs that are within the concrete. Because honestly, it's gorgeous in my opinion, and I think it would just be phenomenal when it's all said and done. And I know that we have to find a way to convince you all and make you comfortable with it, but those install photos are just really gorgeous in my opinion.
Along that line, Maya, so far what you've shown us as install photos had a lot of linear juxtaposition with the textures.
Right.
And haven't seen any photos of anything that's anywhere near representative of what you're proposing.
Yep, and we do have some more that we're gathering. Again, I hesitate to share those because we're not entirely confident on the color and how they achieved it. So I don't want to show you something that's like super beautiful and then we say, well, yeah, except for that's a stained concrete and we can't do that. So we're putting that together. Once we have all of the information really detailed in and confident in it, then we will put it in front of you. It might turn into that you look at this photo to understand the intricacy of the sandblasting, and then you have to look at this image over here to talk about that single pigment concrete. And it might be that that's how we have to walk you through it. But until we have those definitive answers, we're kind of holding those cards right now.
I understand. It's just from my standpoint, if I'm being asked to make a decision on this, I think there's quite a ways to go.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Well, I think that concludes everything that we were going to present tonight. So happy to answer any questions if you have any questions, or we'll let you get on with your evening. I know you got more items.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks.
I'm gonna rent.
And two and again. I mean,
It's there now.
thank you.
Good evening.
Hey, but we're waiting just for a second. Missing somebody.
It's your job.
Oh, Jason.
I've been training him on several things, but not a whole lot. Knows what he's doing, but I've been prepping stuff for Sandcastle Day this weekend. And
What's your title now?
Chief. Yeah,
Still.
I'm 710 now. He's 701. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm in the front office. Plenty of different tasks because we're doing the evidence. We're going to be doing the evidence audit and switching it over. So I'm going to bring all Valerie going to be doing that. And actually, Rob and Chris will be working on some of the accreditation stuff. So we can get that moving forward. But yeah.
Good. Okay, so next on our agenda, we have the Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District Prepared Food Tax Date. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is our third semi-annual update on the prepared food tax. I think we're a few months late. That's okay. It's been a busy 9 months, and we're just going to share with you briefly some of the things that have happened. We'll give you an update on the status of the prepared food tax and just a little bit about going forward operations. So Mark, if you could move forward, next slide. So I'm going to move through this quickly and just sort of hit the highlights. We continue to see an increased call load, up 17% from January to May from the same period last year. But we see the call load now really beginning to stabilize. And so, our operating plan going forward is really largely based on a relatively stable call load. Most importantly here is that we're meeting now our standard of cover on all of our calls. So we are out of the station in a specified amount of time. It's typically under 7 minutes. And as we track that from January to May, we've done that on every single call. So that is the benefit of having a hybrid paid model where we're actually staffing people in the building. In terms of equipment and facilities, we completed our seismic retrofit on the fire station. As you recall, that was a $1.9 million FEMA grant to do that. The results are great. We got the side benefit of some nice interior finishes as well. And we did a public open house on May 29th, had 100 people come by to see the new building and some of the new equipment. It's very well received. We also took delivery on 2 new apparatus in the last few months, a fire engine that we've been waiting for what seems like forever, and a new 4x4 rescue EMS. So you may see those new apparatus around town.
Both of those were ordered, just comment, the rescue was ordered in 2020 and the engine was ordered in 2021. So they're both things ordered from the previous levy that just delayed.
Next slide. So we staffed the plan. We'll cover some specifics in the coming slides. But we did hire the fire marshal, John Jerome, who started in January. And we've just hired our head of the lifeguard and Marine side, who's hiring as a lieutenant. And as you recall, our contract with the city is covering half of his pay and the others being covered by the district. His name is Koa Liu. He's from Hawaii, spent the last year and a half or so in Nehalem, where he's been working with their surf rescue and response. Brings a ton of experience. So I had a chance to meet him this week on the beach as he was getting one of our trucks out of the sand, and completely unflappable. And I think you're going to be really impressed with the experience that he brings. In terms of collaboration with the city, we did sign the lifeguard program following the trial season last year. We're off to a good start. We've had staff on the beach now in trucks for the last month or so.
April 15th, we started really staffing it.
Yeah. So, pretty soon we'll have all of our lifeguards out there and continue to work with the city on, the things that we've been working on forever, like the fire hydrants and cows. So I think the collaboration there continues to be good. So here's some pictures from the open house and the new toys.
And you know, we would have been there, but we were here.
Well, you missed some really good sausages. So really the main topic here, the prepared food tax update. We budgeted $770,000 for fiscal 23. We collected 884 through May, which looks like that's about where we're going to end up for the year. So a little bit over what we'd projected. We used the planned funds to hire one new 24-hour firefighter shift. So 3 full-time firefighters. That was done last year. And that's why we're able to hit that standard of cover now. You know, we've continued to staff our captain, Shauna Waite, replacing the SAFER grant, and we hired the fire marshal, John Jerome. So those were all operational expenses that were covered and will continue to be covered by the prepared food tax. The excess funds we were able to put to use for variable staffing. So we started a new part-time firefighter program. So we bring in firefighters both locally and from the Portland area and other places to essentially serve a 24-hour shift over 2 days. And most of them will stay overnight and be on call locally overnight. So it gives us really great extra coverage during the day. We've also got 3 new student volunteers on board. And so we're able to use that excess funding and apply it towards variable expenses to just improve the level of service that we can provide. Just some notes on response trends, and I'm not going to bore you with all of the numbers. The volume continues to increase, but we see it stabilizing. But one thing of note is that the responses for tourists, which we track, the percentage has gone down. So the increased percentage in calls is attributable to citizens, and we haven't, figured out residents. We haven't figured out exactly why. We think some of it's attributable to an aging population, and we've got some frequent flyers that call us, periodically. But we continue to monitor very closely that balance between tourism-driven calls and resident calls. The incident distribution, so the number of EMS calls, fire calls, surf calls, rope calls is pretty stable. We're now able to mitigate a lot more of the incidents on the beach because we've got staff now, on the beach all the time. So that's good. And as I said before, we're consistently meeting our standard of cover in the face of the increase in call load. So I'm always going to bring this slide back up. This is sort of the, the heartbeat of the organization. It's what we commit for every call. You've seen this in the last 2 presentations, and you'll continue to see it in every presentation that we give. Our standard of cover basically says, what are the people that the staff that we're going to provide to respond to an incident, skills and the equipment that are required in order to, mitigate a larger emergency and hopefully have a good outcome. And we need to do that at a service level, which we're targeting to keep it, over 90 to 95% of the time. And then my last slide is just the operating plan. We just approved our fiscal 24 budget, 24-25 budget. And you can see, most of the funding comes from property taxes. We passed the levy, which really now provides us stable funding to address the plan, both the hybrid paid volunteer personnel plan, as well as an apparatus replacement and maintenance plan. And so we're in good shape now financially. You can see in the chart on the left, the orange slice is the prepared food tax. The big blue slice is funding from taxes. That gray slice is just our starting cash on hand at the beginning of the year, which we need to use to pay our expenses because our revenues aren't balanced. And then we've got some other contract related funding there that represents a small amount of the funding. And then on the right side, the allocation primarily, medical calls. But increasing, you see a sizable number of other types of calls, including surf rescue and high angle rope rescue. And, while we don't have a lot of surf calls as a percentage, we're very vigilant. There was a surf rescue in Seaside last week, which could have been, pretty serious if there hadn't been a good response. And we are at a point now with our surf rescue here, although we still do rely on mutual aid from Seaside and Nehalem, that we are almost at the point where we can respond to the rescues with our own staff. So we've been doing a lot of training and really, thanks, I think, to the collaboration with the city on the lifeguard program and our ability to bring together the lifeguards and the firefighters who are trained in surf rescue to provide a really outstanding service on the beach. So that's all I've got. If you've got any questions for me or for the chief.
Well, I just have a question that really isn't on this topic, but maybe you can just answer it for me. Is there a reason why the poles with the lights on them around the station are so tall?
That's the way they've been since the station was built. That's where they were put that way in 95.
There's no like code thing or necessity for them to be that tall?
I would refer back to, I guess, a city code, whatever. I don't know. Long before my time.
Okay, thanks.
That wasn't a change as part of the retrofit.
Yeah.
Mark, I think you've done a great job in bringing the fire department up to the standard that it is now. We had some real problems, real deficiencies before you came on, and I think you've done a great job.
Well, a lot of it's with the board though, too. We have a great board that has a vision and through strategic planning. That's really what makes a difference.
Yeah, you've done a great job.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have the Cannon Beach Parks and Community Services Committee Grant Award recommendations for fiscal year 24-25. Come on up.
You heard his name.
Set stage left. Grants.
Yes, we have some folks from the Parks Committee here to talk about the grants. Turn it over.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to present the Parks and Community Services recommendations for the 2024-2025 community grants. I'm joined by several members of the Parks Committee, Les Sinclair and Betty Guerin. As mentioned in the staff report, for over 31 years, the city has provided funds to support the community grants program. I want to start off by saying thank you for continuing to fund this program and for increasing the budget this year. We were quite surprised by that, so thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Because of this increase, we were able to fully fund or nearly fully fund each request. There are many wonderful organizations in our county doing incredible work. This year, we accelerated the schedule by about a month to get the funds to the recipients sooner than in past years. You have our recommendations in your packet. Would you like me to read the list?
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa. would
Because
like
it's,
you to
well,
read.
just because it's just so cool that we're doing this.
Okay, great. Happy to do it. So the American Legion Post 168 requested 8,700. We are recommending 8,700. The Cannon Beach Arts Association requested 19,885. We are recommending 18,249.80. Cannon Beach Chorus, 2,100. Cannon Beach History Center and Museum requested 36.99. That's what we're recommending. Clatsop Casa requested 8,000. 7,873.60 is our recommendation. El Centro Northwest, 4,500. we are recommending 4,428.80. Coast Food Web, 5,000. Recommendation, 4,721. North Coast Land Conservancy, 5,000. We're recommending 4,921. Restoration House, 10,000. 9,042.20 is our recommendation. Sea Turtles Forever, 10,000. 9,642. South County Community Food Bank, 4,000. Final recommendation, 3,936.80. Sunset Parks and Recreation Foundation, 3,000. 2,952.60 is our recommendation. Cannon Beach Academy, 15,000. 14,763.20 is what we'd like them to get. The Harbor, 15,000. A final recommendation, 11,846.40. Seaside Hall, 2,000. 1,968.40. Tolivon Arts Colony requested 24,700. We're recommending 21,313.20. And the Wildlife Center of the North Coast, 10,000. 9,842 is our recommendation for a total of 140,000. We have had a potluck in the past, and as you all know, we can't do that anymore. So we are talking about possibly giving out the awards at one of the concerts in the park this summer, but we're still working on that. So we'll let you know as we move forward. We're going to talk about it at our meeting next week. So do you guys have any questions?
I just think this is incredible. I mean, really, the list of organizations here and the fact that we can give them almost their entire.
Amazing.
I just, it's wonderful. It makes me really proud to be part of Cannon Beach. It's fantastic.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much, and to the Budget Committee for honoring these organizations with the funds.
And the arithmetic you must have had to do.
We have spreadsheets.
And I really want to thank Sherry Scotland for all of her help this year. So, any questions for us?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, all right.
Good job.
So much.
You know, you don't have to do it with your, like this.
No.
Actually, I wouldn't trust a spreadsheet. I have to do it by hand.
Okay, so we're going to close the work session and open the special meeting. And the first item on the special meeting agenda is public hearing for applicant 2402. So this is a hearing regarding APP 2402, an appeal by Dylan Lewis on behalf of the property owner Hideaways for the suspension of their short-term rental for the month of June 2024 due to violations. The property is located at 296 West Gogana, tax lot 2500 map 51031 AA in a residential lower density RL zone. The request will be reviewed under Municipal Code 17.77 short-term rentals. Does any council member have a conflict of interest? Any councilor member have personal bias? Has any council member had any ex parte contacts?
Site visit, one of them's on my
I
street.
haven't asked that yet.
Oh,
Next question. Has any council member made a site visit?
yes.
Yes, I went by. Okay. Is there a staff report?
Yes, there is. Hi, Mayor, Council. I have Tessa Fun with me tonight, who helps me out from the Community Development Department, does a lot of work on the short-term rentals. So if there's something I can't address, she's here to help me out and support me on this. So basically what we're taking a look at is the City of Cannon Beach Community Development Department and Police Departments recently informed Haystack Hideaways of 2 violations of their short-term rental located at 296 Gagana Avenue. The May 10th letter informed Haystack Hideaways that there was a first violation in November for a failure to file the transient room tax. Second violation occurred around May 7th. Again, failure to file the transient room tax. And the suspension was going to be in place for the entire month of June, so a 30-day suspension. Municipal Code Section 1777-110 allows a permit holder to appeal the suspension to City Council by filing a letter of appeal to the city manager within 10 days after the date of mailing the letter. And Mr. Lewis submitted an appeal on May 20th of 2024 and stated the following. We recently got notice of a suspension for the month of June 2024. The notice is due to 2 late filed transient room tax returns in the past 24 months. First, we sincerely apologize for the inconvenience that this has caused. We've recently had some staff turnover for our busy tax season, and after being briefed on the transient room tax situation, new staff reached out to a third-party intermediary, RBO, who explained that they were remitting the taxes to the necessary authorities. Unfortunately, our new staff member took this, that there was nothing necessary to file since all the payments had been made. After the tax season was over, we received the notice mentioned above and have since clarified the necessary direction for staff to make sure that the issue is isolated and does not happen again. We have of this email paid the fine that accompanied the notice and made sure that all transient room tax return copies have been sent to the necessary authorities. I respectfully request that you lift the suspension for our June rentals due to the necessary steps that were taken to ensure this does not happen again and that all taxes are paid and up to date and no tax was due to any authority. The criteria that we're taking a look at is in section 1777, which is the short-term rental. Section 100 talks about violations and penalties. One of the comments is just that typically this we do 5-year inspections for short-term rental properties, and the applicant was informed in January that we needed to do this. We did not hear from them at that time. In March, we had sent an email informing them of this, and we still have not received discussion about when that inspection is to take place. Number 2 talks about the failure to file transient room tax returns. So basically it says under the staff commented list violation 1. So that it just shows the quarter dates as to when we're talking about the taxes to be filed. The date due was on October 15th. The violation letter was on November 14th, and the taxes were paid on January 25th. For the quarter of January 1 to March 31st, taxes were due on April 15th, violation letter sent on May 7th, and shortly thereafter on May 22nd, the taxes were paid. Lastly, staff is just mentioning that there were 2 violations that appeared over this 6-month period, and the Community Development Department assessed the 30-day suspension for the 2 violations under the 24-month period and was recommending that the short-term rental permit be suspended for 30 days and that the applicant shall pay for and schedule the required inspection by no later than Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. And I can answer any questions.
So Steve? So in both cases of not paying room tax, they received a letter saying notice of deficiency, return not filed.
That's correct.
And they also received a letter saying that they were supposed to do a inspection, correct?
That's correct.
So there was no response from them at all until a penalty was in the offing for suspension in June.
Yeah, when we really heard from them with regards to a lot of the information was when the suspension letter recently went out.
Right, but prior to that time, no.
Right. They did
paying their late fee.
They did pay the taxes, but it took a couple of different letters and things like that to get that done.
Right.
So in essence, they really have 3 violations.
Yes, in a way, but one of the things we were looking at from the inspection was really all we're looking for is compliance. We just want to get it done. And so from that perspective, we just looked at the transient room taxes as more of the violation. And the hope of the rest of it was just getting a condition that would require them to get the inspection completed. Because we're not interested in suspending anyone's license. We're just looking to follow through on the requirements.
But they still haven't scheduled an inspection.
No, they have not. But that, and that was just one of the reasons for the condition, because I think that would help us get that done.
So is there any additional correspondence?
No, there was not.
Okay. So criteria applicable to this request are municipal code chapter 17.77 short-term rentals. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward criteria described in the staff report or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or municipal code, which you believe to apply to this decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford counsel and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude an appeal on that issue. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
That would be the.
Oh, yeah, he's not on.
Okay. Are there any proponents who wish to speak? Are there any opponents who wish to speak? Is there a staff response?
No, I think that we're looking at the inspection and the suspension, and it really would be, from a council perspective, what they thought was the best sort of timing as to when that should occur, if the council chooses to go that direction.
Okay. And I guess there's no opportunity to rebut because there was nothing to rebut. So I'm going to close the hearing and move to consideration. Anyone like to?
I think the council should respect the work of the code enforcement officer. I think to do otherwise is dismissive of the work of the planning department and the code officer. There's no point in having rules if you're not going to follow them. There absolutely is no point. I don't find the reasoning of the appellant to be such that it would make me want to say that there was a good reason for them. I mean, it's right there on the letter, the delinquent letter, what they're supposed to do. So they didn't do it. Still haven't scheduled an inspection. So I would say that, in my opinion, it also, I just want to say one more thing. It's also dismissive of people in Cannon Beach, because sitting in copy with the counselors and other conversations I've had with citizens who complain about misuses of the short-term rentals, and we say, oh, well, you have to call the code officer and he'll address it. Well, it's been addressed here. There was a follow-up, and I think it's dismissive of the citizens as well, not to follow through and deny this appeal.
Anybody know of any kind of precedent of if they've paid
their history,
brought themselves due of forgiving the
only thing I can mention on some of that is Tessa's been with us 6 months. I've been here for a little bit of time. And so this was violations that happened within, we thought that probably since about a little before last year. So I'm not going to, I don't know the answer to that question, but we have before us today the violations that were there, and we administer the ordinance accordingly.
I know there was one when Brandon and I first started out, they didn't pay taxes for quite a while. And we suspended them. I think we spent, I think it was like 3 months, wasn't it? I think it was a 90-day suspension.
That I'm sorry,
I can't remember exactly, but I know it was in the middle of the summer. They were not happy. They said they would probably lose about $30,000 in there. So it has been done before. When you look at this, if you look at the fact that they haven't even contacted you about inspection, plus the other two violations, they would be really liable for a 90-day suspension rather than a 30-day suspension.
I agree. I think they're getting off easy with a 30-day suspension.
Well, I'd like to echo what Steve said. I'm like to see this work as, you know, bringing somebody into compliance.
Right.
And I don't see how offering them leniency is going to do that. If they, as you've stated, haven't even made good on the inspection request. I feel backed into a corner.
Mhm.
And the fact that they didn't even respond to that issue in their letter about the audit.
So would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move to deny APP 2402 and suspend the short-term rental license of Haystack Hideaways for the month of June 2024 with reinstatement of the license based on the scheduling of the required inspection by Tuesday, June 18, 2024.
I second it.
Okay, any further discussion?
A clarification. Are you saying that if they get their inspection or if they schedule the required inspection by June 18th, that you would revoke the 30-day suspension?
I think that they would not be reinstated until they complete their.
Okay,
They complete the inspection and the 30 days.
Right.
Suspension.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I just have one more point of
Okay.
clarification on our sheet that we were given. It says, if the council denies the appeal and upholds the administrative decision to suspend the application, along these lines would accomplish this: uphold the administrative decision and proceed with suspending Haystack Hideaways short-term rental period for 30 days beginning. In your motion, include the beginning date.
I just said for the month of June.
Okay.
2024.
June 1st.
So we paused their suspension for June.
Oh, okay.
Because when we first brought it to council for the scope, when we first discussed it, you guys had mentioned, we're already hearing it in June. And so we paused their suspension until council had a chance to.
What does that mean? You paused their suspension?
They can rent.
They have been able to rent since then?
Yes.
They have until action was going to be taken by council.
Okay.
So it would be from today?
For the balance of June?
Or 30 days.
No, for 30 days.
30 days from June 12th, probably.
Yeah, because the ordinance says 30 days.
Is that correct?
Yeah, 30 days was what was required. The council can amend that, but that was typically what was the violation would be.
Well, I think we ought to follow the ordinance and suspend them for 30 days.
I'd be happy to change my motion to 30 days from today's date.
Okay.
Today's date or tomorrow? Well, today's date, I guess. Tomorrow.
And still contingent on the inspection.
And still contingent on the inspection, yeah.
Okay, is there a second to the
Yeah,
inspection?
second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
June 11th? It was from?
Yeah,
Okay,
today.
yes.
Further discussion? Okay, roll call please, Jen.
Counselor Ogilvy.
Yes.
Council President McCarthy.
Yes.
Counselor Hayes.
Yes.
Counselor Kerr.
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Next, we have public hearing. APP 2403. I'm going to open the public hearing. This is a hearing regarding APP 2403, an appeal by Mel and Ben Parson for the suspension of their short-term rental for the month of June 2024 due to violations. This property is located at 164 East Dawes Street, tax lot 12306, map 51030 AD, in a residential medium density R3 zone. The request will be reviewed under Municipal Code 17.77 short-term rentals. Does any council member have a conflict of interest? Does any council member have personal bias? Has any council member had any ex parte contacts? Has any council member made a site visit? Is there a staff report?
Yes, thanks. On this one, similar situation here in terms of taking a look at a short-term rental. The Cannon Beach Community Development Department, and Police Department informed Melanie and Benjamin Parsons for 3 violations with their short-term rental located at 164 East Dawes. The May 10th letter informed them of a couple of different violations. The first violation was just August 11th, and that was failure for the room tax. Second violation, same thing took place in November 14th, failure for the room tax. And then third violation occurred in February. And once again, that was failure for the room tax, and that the suspension would be in place for the entire month of June. Municipal Code Section 1777-10 allows for the permit holder to appeal to the council by filing a letter within the with the city manager within 10 days of date of that mailing. And the Parsons submitted an appeal on May 20th and stated the following. I'm writing to appeal and ask for your reconsideration of this suspension. We understand that we filed our transient room taxes late 3 times, and this is not a pattern you want to see in a new short-term rental owner in town. We may have reasons for why that happened. Misunderstanding around the need to file when no income had come in for our first quarter, and then just some disorganization that accompanied a death in the family. What I want to highlight is that we paid all penalties and accrued interest when they were filed. We also filed the Q1 taxes early in April 2024. You'll see from our yearly audit that we're not running a high volume short-term rental. We are sharing our home, and when we can't be using it, it's been a learning curve to get the quarterly taxes filed with the town, county, and state, but we have a system in place now. We are trying hard to comply with all municipal codes, and the one area we slipped was the filing on time. You'll see we've kept to the calendar and size restrictions of our permit, and we've never had a noise or a parking complaint. We've paid our own owed taxes plus interest and penalties for being late. And would you please reconsider the suspension of our 14-day STR permit in June 2024? So again, the applicable criteria we're looking at is 1777-100, which is the violation section. And I won't go through it like last time. It just kind of spells out the different violations, when the quarter was due, when the taxes were sent out, and when they were paid. You can see in the last 2 violations, they were a little bit late, but it was just approximately about a month, just to make that aware, the council aware of that. There were 3 violations in that 6-month period. And based on the community development's judgment on those violations, we are recommending a 30-day suspension. Community development recommends that the short-term rental be suspended for 30 days. So I could answer any questions.
I have a question, Steve. According to the city's website, the whole list of short-term rentals within the city, it appears that the Dawes permit expired 5/31/24. And the website was updated on 6/7/24.
Sorry to double check on that one.
There's a chance. We're missing quite a few people in the finance department right now due to sickness. So we do have some grace.
Yeah, we can take a look at that one. Don't have something pending right offhand, but we can totally research that and get back to you on that.
Okay, I have it here. I mean, the site.
Yep.
I have the fact that it expired 5/31.
I'm assuming we'll maybe seeing something soon from them then.
Well,
potentially.
And it's true that they could potentially, if we wanted to be really draconian about the way this is applied, they could have 140 separate violations, is what it said.
Yeah, and that was, some of those, what we're talking about there is a certain, I'm not as familiar with it, but it's in the finance section in terms of collecting taxes and things like that. There's a specific penalty, and I'm not as familiar with that, but based on that, if we really wanted to get into it, there is things that we could look at a little closer and find people a bit more heavily if we chose to do so.
Right, but we're not choosing, you're not recommending that in this,
That was not in this case.
not choosing to do so in this case.
And those are based on every day then?
That's correct. I think there's like a certain dollar amount. Don't quote me on it because I'm not familiar with the section, but I know it's I think it's municipal code section 3. And it's a finance section, and it talks about certain penalties per day that could be charged for violations.
And so, yeah, it just becomes a violation rather than increased fines.
Right. So we've at this point in time, since I'm not as familiar with the finance end, and I'd probably leave that aspect to the finance department, we strictly just chose to do the zoning ordinance aspects to this.
And you chose, it really technically, since it's 3 violations. Was it 3 violations?
30 days?
Yeah, we were
Yeah, could've-
conservative with the 30, and not saying that was wrong or right. That was the violations. You are correct. It does say it could be up to 90 days. They are paid up. Yes, they were late and things like that. So that was just a decision that the community development department made in terms of a recommendation.
30 days is actually giving them a little bit of a break.
It is
Yes.
a big break, 30, 90.
Significant break.
Yeah, because that would be the entire summer otherwise, you know.
And those were some of the things we thought of, but I think the most important thing that we're doing as we're just starting to do this is we just want to get compliance.
Yeah. I understand that.
So is there any additional correspondence?
No, there was not.
Okay. Criteria applicable to this request are in municipal code chapter 17.77 short-term rentals. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward criteria described in the staff report or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or municipal code, which you believe to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford counsel and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude an appeal on that issue. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
I'm here.
Oh, you are. Hi.
Yes.
Come on up.
Just come here.
Just come right up.
Hi.
Hi.
I had any idea how intimidating this would be. I might stay up.
Hey, we're a friendly bunch.
Yes, I'm Mel Parsons and the owner of 164 East Dobbs. And I came in person this evening because truly more important to me than keeping an active short-term rental permit is being a good resident here. And I'm new, like almost 4 years, just started renting.
You're very new, yeah.
Very new. I am one of those, I've been coming here since I was a little girl and it was my dream. This is what I always wanted, was a home here. Right now, we don't live here full time. So we do rent the house, not a ton. So the first time that the first violation, we didn't realize we were supposed to report that we had nothing. And then the second time, and we were late. My dad had passed away and I just missed a lot of things. And the third time was truly embarrassing because my husband and I each thought each other had taken care of it until another thing came in the mail. So thankfully, Q1 of this year was our first achieved on time payment. And I hope that you would consider that we're turning a new leaf. We have our $805.38 for Q2 ready to go because we're done with the guests for that time. And, you know, I don't really have anything else to say. It's not how I want to show up in town. So here I am. And, you know, if there's anything that you would see fit to lessen that, that would be that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any proponents who wish to speak? Are there any opponents who wish to speak? Is there a staff response?
No, there's not.
Do you want to rebut anything?
I wanted her address, her mailing address.
Pardon me?
I was just wondering her mailing address. She never gave it to me.
Oh, mailing address.
My mailing address
Yeah.
is 4104 Northeast 96th Street, Seattle, Washington,
Okay.
98115.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to close the hearing and move to consideration.
Well, I think that the appellant's attitude is great. I'm glad that they want to come into compliance. I think that they've already been given a break because 90-day suspension is, but given the circumstances, it was reduced by 2/3 to 30 days. I think we have to be consistent. I think we have to impose these penalties and start a pattern of doing that consistently. And I think because our planning director the planning department has recommended following through with this. And again, I'm not excited about being dismissive of what the recommendations are. And I think that the 30 days is actually a good way to mitigate all the reasons that they had.
Anyone else? Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I move that we uphold the administrative decision and proceed with suspending Mel and Ben Parsons' short-term rental period for 30 days beginning today.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Hayes,
Yes.
Counselor Kirk,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Council President McCarthy.
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. to the
Yeah.
meeting.
I do have a question about the whole VRBO and Airbnb. Reluctance to release any information about local rentals and has any progress been made on that?
Still having those types of discussions with the intermediaries. I'd have to talk to finance a little bit more, see what's happening. I know we had some general conversations with finance in terms of how we could do that. And there was even a little bit of discussion with Ashley. Maybe one of the things I could do is just reach out to her again and just see where we're at with that.
Yeah, because that's been a long-term situation where we just can't get a handle on.
It's a complicated one,
Yeah,
but I can do that.
appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Tessa.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda, we have an ordinance, consideration of ordinance 2406 CO 2302, City of Cannon Beach request for zoning ordinance text amendments to chapter 17.43 wetland overlay zone. Steve?
Not much to add here. At the last meeting, the council had adopted the findings and read the title once and it wasn't unanimous, so we had to come back to a second meeting and here we are. Just looking for that recommendal to approve the second reading and adopt ordinance number 2406.
Any discussion? They're ready to make a motion?
Your paper. Make it. Someone else is gonna-
I will just say that I'm gonna remain consistent with my concern, and I'm happy that we're doing something about the wetlands ordinance and think we could have done some kind of accommodation to for housing.
My response is we did do that, so. Okay, all right. I move to approve the second reading and adopt ordinance 2406.
Second.
Okay, so ordinance 2406, CO 2302, City of Cannon Beach request for zoning ordinance text amendments to chapter 17.43 wetland overlay zone. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Council President McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor Hayes?
No.
Counselor Kirk? Yes. Counselor Ogilvy?
Yes.
Mayor Knopf?
Yes. So ordinance 2406 has been adopted and will become effective 30 days from adoption.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, then we have an action item, the city manager evaluation results from 2023. And Ashley, yeah, Ashley?
Joining right now.
Yeah. How'd she know we'd be ready right now? Good evening.
Hi, good evening, City Council. Ashley Driscoll, City Attorney's Office. I believe the last item on your agenda tonight is closing the loop on the city manager evaluation results for 2023. We are now in June of 2024, so this item got delayed a little bit on our agenda. But regardless, we held the first session for the evaluation on February 27th. We met in executive session to review City Manager Bruce St. Dennis's performance using the criteria the council had previously adopted. The council came to consensus on each criteria. The council then met in executive session with Bruce on March 19th, 2024 to discuss the results of the performance evaluation. And by and large, the results were very, very positive. So typically at the end of the conclusion of the evaluation process, based on the results, the city council considers granting a merit increase. For this year, Bruce is not requesting a merit increase. So the final step of the evaluation process is for the council to adopt a motion in open session, summarizing the council's review and ending the evaluation for year 2023. I'm available for any questions if the council has any.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, anybody ready to make a motion?
I move to approve the results of the city manager St. Dennis's performance evaluation completed in March 2024. Council agreed St. Dennis successfully performed his duty as city manager. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Kerr?
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy?
Yes.
Council President McCarthy?
Yes.
Counselor Hayes?
Yes.
Mayor Knopf?
Yes. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yep. Thank you, council. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have good of the order.
Coffee with the counselors on Monday.
Yeah.
For those who are finally still left in the audience.
And in honor of Sandcastle Day being Saturday, the trail cleaning party has been moved to the following Saturday so that all of you can volunteer for the Sandcastle because it'll be fun. Anything else?
I just have a question about, there's a big remodel being done of Surf Sands, right? I mean, it's
Just about
multi-million-dollar remodel. So are we going to get a whole bunch of permitting fees from that, or have we?
I'm sorry, Steve had left. I do believe that we've gotten the permitting fees, but I'll be able to do a report for you.
Okay, I'd really like to see what they are.
Hey, anything else?